Hey, everybody. I'm Paul Lathrop. I am the owner of the Self-Defense Radio Network. We are here for another recording session of the Polite Society podcast. Joining me tonight on my right, Charlie Cook, writing Shotgun with Charlie, Charlie's Gungrams, and about 30 other things on the internet. Below me, we have Rob Morse. Rob, of course, is Self-Defense Gun Stories, the Gun Facts, the Slow Facts blog. Doggone it. My mouth is just not in gear tonight. I need to stick it in another gear. And everybody who does gun news, picks up Rob's stuff. You'll find it all over the place. So if you read Second Amendment news, you most likely at some point have read Rob's stuff. Got a little bit of an abbreviated. My goal is still, as it's going to be every show going forward now, we need to be out of here by 8 p.m. Central Time. So we're going to go ahead. If you guys are ready, we're going to get started, and I'm going to start throwing an intro out here. So, all right, here we go. Masada Yubin, 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
All right, everybody, welcome to another recording session of the Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one Monday, November the 27th, 2023. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse. On tonight's show, we talk about millions of Illinois gun owners who are not registering their semi-automatic long guns as required by law.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about the ATF declaring another legal item suddenly illegal.
Also on tap for tonight, we'll talk about Hollywood changing the way it uses firearms in movies. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 685 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, we are back. It's Monday night. It's just after 7 o'clock in the Central Time Zone. That means another episode of Polite Society Podcast. Rob, 2 weeks in a row, man, you've been above the water. Wow.
I'll try and make it up to you. I'm sorry.
So
Expectations.
what's been going on with you lately, dude?
Okay, before we do, let's talk to all our online listeners right now. Paul, I think it was Wednesday. They threw all the comments in the last 5 minutes, and we went, these are clever. Wish we could touch them. So, first come, first served.
Yes.
Get started early, guys.
Yes. Like voting, do it. Like voting, do it early and do it often.
Yeah, that used to be funny. I was in Bill Brady's Lock and Load radio show. Yeah, it is tragic. I recorded another episode of my self-defense gun stories. In case you've never been watching us before, I help Paul with both his Polite Society News and the Polite Society Weekend Show. Go watch us online. Also carried every day. I'm dull. Charlie, how about you?
Well, it has been a good week. Thanks. Lots of things to be thankful and grateful for, of course. I had some classes over the weekend, and people keep inquiring about getting their carry permits. I also got a couple books in the mail. I got Shotguns by Elmer Keith and Jim Cirillo, Tales from the Stakeout Squad by Paul Kirchner. So I'm looking forward to digging into those books. And Rob thinks he's dull, but I'm excited about getting old books in the mail.
Touché, my friend.
Paul, what's been happening in the Polite Society world?
Well, I as Rob mentioned, I had a fantastic show with him on Wednesday. a great show with Tom Walls talking de-escalation on Friday. And then yesterday we kind of went off the rails a little bit with Tony Simon when Rob and I did the weekend show with him. That was an absolute blast. I love having Tony on and just have a riot when he comes aboard. That's kind of what I've been up to. Want to mention real quick, made the decision today after looking at the calendar and realizing that both Christmas Day and New Year's Day are on Monday this year. There will be no show on Christmas Day or on Christmas Monday or New Year's Monday, simply because I don't think anybody would watch. I think they're all going to be spending time with families, as they should. And so, yeah, I'm just going to go and I'm going to take a 2-week break. From all broadcasts, about a week and a half break. I'm not going to do any broadcasts at all New Year's week. I'll do a Training Friday with Tom Walls the 22nd, and then I'm done until after the first of the year. So that's kind of what's up with me. I do want to mention, let me go ahead and put the, as soon as I figure out what button it is, it's the button down here, put the Self-Defense Radio Network website up. As you can see right there, we are up on the top left, Polite Society Podcast, proud member of the network. Self-Defense Gun Stories, Rob's show is right there. Eye on the Target Radio is there. Riding Shotgun with Charlie's is there. Modern Self-Protection, a lot of great shows. You can listen to them right off the website, or the subscription information is there if you should so choose. That's going to do it for the opening segment. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk about that show, that news story that Rob teased. Illinois is registering or trying to get people to register assault weapons, using Charlie's assault weapon air quote, and nobody's showing up. We'll talk about that when we come back, right after we hear from ACLDN. Back after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, welcome back to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast. Our first one I'm going to take with only 6 weeks before we got this one off the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Not exactly a bastion for conservative thought or for pro-gun rights thought. With only 6 weeks before the deadline, all of 3,400 gun owners have registered their guns, now regulated by the recent Illinois gun ban. That is thousands of guns out of millions. So it looks like Illinois gun owners are ignoring the latest unjust laws that Illinois Democrats heaped on them. State residents who own guns covered by the sweeping firearms ban have a little more than a month. Yeah, it's still the end of November. Have about a month to register those weapons with the Illinois State Police before facing the possibility of criminal penalties. Registration began October 1st and through November 21st. 3,439 owners had registered nearly 6,600 guns they owned before those firearms became illegal to possess or sell in Illinois, according to state records. While the degree of compliance is impossible to determine, the number of people registered through November 21st represented just 0.001% of the 2.4 million people holding Illinois firearm owner FOID cards. The state mandated permits that authorize residents to own guns. Void card owners might not own guns at all, or guns that are not covered by the ban. So, this is justice in action right here. Rob, what do you think?
I think this is beautiful. There are more of us than there are the people who are trying to rule us. What if they had a gun ban and nobody came? Charlie, what do you think?
So I've got a couple thoughts. Are people not showing up because they don't want to comply? Or are they not showing up because they're not watching the news and they're not hearing about this? Because as we know, not everyone is an activist and keeps up with the goings on in the gun world. So, is it one of those? Are there, how many of those people? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
is this something where Illinois now, since the law changed, Illinois has to mail out an envelope to every registered gun owner and say, by the way, we changed the laws?
I seriously doubt they're going to do that. They're just going to send. I assume they'll send out a tweet or something like this, and then be like, "Hey, we told everybody." Nobody found out about it, right? That's now become the official way to notify people of things. And how many people just don't? We know we have gun owners that don't know about how the laws are changing, and that the laws are changing, or that there's a magazine bans and assault weapon bans and all this nonsense. Maybe they're just completely clueless about it.
Could be.
Yeah. I also think it's a little bit of apathy and a little bit of three things. I'll do it the last possible minute, like they do their taxes. When I have to file taxes and I have to send a check in, it goes in at about 11:30 at night on the last possible night I can mail it. I'll make the trip to the post office. And I think it's part of that. Part of I'm not going to do this because it's stupid, and part of I'm not going to do this because it's none of the state's damn business.
I think those are all great reasons. I also wonder with the pistol ban, the pistol brace registration that they had recently, the government likes to change its mind, and now those guns have to be short-barreled rifles, and do you know what I mean? Now they have to be registered that way and can't be anything else.
You went and registered, and now you have to register them, even though the law changed.
Exactly.
Well, there is a chance that the law will change, but again, so what?
Yeah,
if millions of people break the law, cool, y'all, come arrest me. And the probability, and then, oh, you're a gun owner, you can't be on that jury. Interesting. This will be fun.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't get that far. I don't know about you guys, but where I live, we have a lot of illegals coming in, and they're shipping them in. The government's giving them more money than the retired people. They're paying for their housing, and a lot of the town resources are going to dealing with the illegals. So, the migrants. And so...
are they here legally?
No.
Then they are illegals.
Then they're illegals. I'm with you, bud. But if they get to do something that's illegal, what do I get to do that's illegal? Like, let's make this fair. They're not even U.S. citizens, and they get to them just being here is a crime. What do I get away with? What do I get out of this? How can I benefit?
Do I see a M2 in Charlie's near future?
That would be pretty cool. Not on the teacher salary though.
All right, let me get some comments in here. Get this one first. Dana says we've seen it time and time again when registration is demanded, gun owners show federal and state governments their middle fingers. Yeah.
Like, here, come read my fingerprint. Yes. Yeah.
And
except to use the middle.
I like this one from Coop. C&T says, mask non-compliance is really the only way gun owners can fight back right now. I remember when they banned, before the federal government said no bump stocks, New Jersey beat them to the punch, rushed something through, said no, you can't have bump stocks. If you do, you have them, you have to register them. And registration came and went, and they got a grand total of 0. And yeah, I love that. So, Rob, you want to tell us about the next story?
Yeah, I do. The homicide on the Rust movie set forced Hollywood to do some thinking about firearms. You're a movie production company. Should you use real guns or replicas? Blank fire or just special effects? The killing, some would say murder, of a chief cinematographer on the film set has some in the industry just rethinking their entire approach. A production company was recently making a movie about Walker, Texas Ranger. I guess that's a remake or restart. This was shortly after the chief cinematographer had been fatally shot on the set of the film Rust. That murder took place in New Mexico. That was where a gun that Alec Baldwin was holding during a rehearsal was loaded with live ammunition. The mood around the Walker set had become pretty hesitant. The movie's producers decided that they would stop using real firearms altogether. They, like many other productions, had selectively used real firearms in some close-ups and on a few occasions for blank fire. By the way, you can kill somebody with a blank gun if you're close enough.
Oh,
They
yeah.
decided to use replica guns instead, including rubber guns and gas-powered guns, such as airsofts, getting rid of real firearms completely. The props master and armorer took any conventional weapon on the set. I assume that even means some rifle sitting behind a wall, just for scenery. Put them in the prop truck, drove them out of there, put them back in a safe somewhere else for storage. So did other movie companies. When Rust resumed filming this year, its new producers decided not to use any more real firearms. Andrew Wirt, who's the film's new armorer, locked up several replica rifles at the Yellowstone Film Ranch in Montana, where it's now being filmed. There are some indications that the industry could be looking at broad changes. Some insurance companies are declining coverage for low-budget films that want to have any firearms on set. Back in Hollywood, a team of representatives between the unions and the major studios have revised industry guidelines governing the use of firearms on the set. The guidelines were last revised 20 years ago. They're not alone. Legislators in California made those guidelines mandatory for in-state movies. I think it's the movies that want to get a in-state movie making tax credit.
Yeah.
That's all the movies in California.
And I'll say this. Another reason that almost all the entertainment industry, while it may live in the Hollywood area, is there's very little filming being done in California anymore. A lot of it's being done in Arizona and in Montana, in other states, and a whole lot is moving up to Toronto, Canada, which ironically looks like a lot of American cities. Toronto fills in good for New York City, fills in good for Philadelphia or any East Coast city. Look, if you're making movies, the person handling the firearms, I don't care what the what am I trying to say? The previous precedent was the person handling the firearm is ultimately responsible for what happens with that firearm. Charlie, you've got a comment here. What do you think, man?
I I think it's a bit ironic that the folks who are mostly anti-gun are still making movies where people are using guns. Like right after the Russ incident came out, The Rock came out and he said he's not using real guns and it's all going to be CGI and all this sort of stuff. And of course, they all end up backtracking and caving a bit and still end up using guns. I think if I remember correctly, there's the only one I can recall who's an anti-gun actor who doesn't want to use firearms was I want to say it was Dustin Hoffman. I think he used a gun in one or two of his early films, and then decided he was an anti-gun folk, and decided not to take on roles with guns anymore, which I have complete respect for, but. You can't be one of these people that's anti-gun and then uses guns in movies and talks about how guns are bad. Like, the list is long. Like Marky Mark and Liam Neeson and who's the guy? What's his name? Everybody knows who he is except for me. George Clooney. These all these characters use guns and firearms, but then they sit here and tell us that owning a gun is bad. But then the hero ends up using a gun to save the day.
Guns are bad. Don't romanticize violence, except if you're coming over here to pay my salary when you watch this movie.
Yep. Guns for me and not for thee, including fake guns, because once the real guns are banned, they're going after the fake ones. And then not even that, you don't even have to wait that long. In a lot of places like St. Louis, They have tried that, and I believe in St. Louis they were successful in pushing through a ban on anything that looks like a firearm. Because if it saves just one kid, well, teach your darn kid not to be stupid and point an airsoft gun at a police officer. I want to get the comp. Dana says Hollywood will be using super soakers next. Dana, you're not that far. How many of you remember the old, the original Nintendo that had Duck Hunt on it? They're going to be using those guns with the big cord hanging out the bottom of them. Let's see here.
I might be up for letting everyone use super soakers. I think that'll make it a little more interesting. It'll make it harder for the editor.
Different kind of super soaker here. I can't believe I said that. Warsaw Patriot said, look how much the adult film industry is being created and is profiting and is destroying youth these days in California. Man, that's not just California. That's everywhere. That's...
all these movies, they're all fake.
And then followed up with Hollywood is a cesspool of crime and filth. They made especially the adult film industry. And George Geller checking in says, I went to a movie last year, but only because my niece was in it. So, yeah. And one more from Warsaw Patriot. They're willing to ban airsoft, Nerf guns, and anything that represents a firearm. And Rob, they're taking your advice, man. I'm getting comments coming in right, left, and center quick. So people are
good. Thank you, guys. Keep it up.
Yes, absolutely, keep it up. I can only get about one out of every 3 or 4 comments in, but pop them up if when I'm looking over that direction and I see an interesting comment, I will pop it up. Charlie, let's talk about solvent traps. Go, man.
All right. The ATF sends out a message about solvent traps. Do I have to use my voice when I say solvent traps? Our friends over at the NSSF alerted subscribers of the letter's content to inform people about this guidance document. The following excerpts from the full letter were shared with industry members. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives recently examined commonly marketed devices commonly marketed as solvent traps and has determined that some of them are firearm silencers as defined by the Gun Control Act and as defined by the National Firearm Act. Solvent traps are marketed as devices that attach to a firearm barrel to catch the excess solvent used when cleaning the firearms. The ATF has not classified any device as a solvent trap because the term does not exist in the relevant federal statutes or implementing regulations. However, ATF has classified numerous devices as firearm silencers, even though they are marketed as solvent traps. The solvent traps devices that are silencers cannot be registered in the National Firearm Registration and the Transfer Record by an individual purchaser. Specifically, the NFA 26 USC subsection 5841 mandates that the, quote, manufacturer, importer, or maker shall register each firearm he manufactures, imports, or makes, end quote. Therefore, it is unlawful to manufacture firearm silencers for transfer to individuals who have applied to make that same firearm by filing an ATF Form 1. These firearms have not been registered by the manufacturer these firearms have not been registered by the manufacturer by the close of the next business day after manufacture and compliance with the federal regulation. An NFA firearm that has already been made and manufactured in violation of the NFA may not be registered by the current possessor, and current possessors of the purported solvent traps that are silencers are encouraged to contact the ATF for further guidance on how they may divest possession. If you are uncertain whether or not you possess a firearm silencer as defined by the GCA or the NFA, please contact your local ATF field office. You may consult the local ATF office website for their contact information. Holy moly. This seems like one of these things that you're better off just not saying anything about.
Yes.
I think the ATF made up law when they said that we can't register mufflers. I don't think that prohibition, if you make it, you have to ask for permission first. I don't think that's in the law. They may have made it up, but it's not in the black letter law signed by Congress. If we got a NFA lawyer, it'd be great to hear from you. Paul, what do you think?
I'm somewhat, because we say it's illegal, it's now illegal. And everything you've done in the past is illegal. Everything you're doing now and are thinking about doing in the future is illegal. Just go ahead and surrender now. We'll get your prison cell ready for you. That's kind of my thoughts there.
That's the ATF.
You know, like I was saying before the show, if you look on Amazon for a pistol brace, it comes up as a bicycle hand grip, and you can buy them for $19 to $25 on Amazon, and it's really funny. It says it's for a bicycle, but then they show a picture of one attached to a rifle.
Yeah.
So I sent some pictures of this to some friends of mine, and one of my buddies is like, "Did you buy one?" And I'm like, "I don't know if that's a good idea."
Not that you know of.
Right.
This is true. Maybe he's asking for a friend. I don't know.
All right. And we've got great comments coming up here. George says, are they going to ban oil filters too? Yeah, a lot of oil filters have the threads that will just thread right into your flash suppressor threading. Warsaw Patriot says, here's a solution: get silencers off the NFA. I like that one. You know, we almost had that. We had Hearing Protection Act that was going through quickly before Trump came to office, and I remember when Trump came into office, we're going, yes, we're going to get the we're going to get the Hearing Protection Act through. Silencers and suppressors will be off the NFA, and then nothing. Nada.
The House Speaker Paul Ryan, I believe, was the one who sat on that and said, yeah, how much do I get? Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He's trying to imitate the big guy and demand 10%.
Well, yeah. C&T Coop says this is now and always has been a game of the government playing a game of we win, you lose, no matter what. I think Justice Thomas may have something to say on this. This is already working its way in the pistol brace case. It is already working its way through, has worked its way through the Fifth Circuit. I did not see today that it made it to the Supreme Court, and I believe today was the last day for cases to hit the docket for the Supreme Court for this year. But, you know, I'm not entirely certain of it. Let me get this one in. Here's what's next. They ban hardware stores in the U.S. and what they sell. Yeah. They're on their way to banning 3D printers. Just because you can use it doesn't mean you will use it, and that they're on their way to banning 3D printers. I feel that one coming. I really do.
Yeah, we don't like a capable citizen. Stay in your place, peon.
Exactly. One of our friends likes to say they don't like it when the peasants have their pitchforks.
Perfect.
All right, let me see here. I need to come. I think we're missing some comments. I need to come over here and hit that and click that one. There we go. Yeah, I was missing some comments. And they should auto-populate here in a few seconds. All right, let's go ahead and go on to our final news story. This one comes off of ammoland.com. In typical leftist fashion, Everytown is currently encouraging their busybody supporters to question their relatives about guns when they visit for the holidays. In a post by Everytown, they put out a call to action for their fellow anti-gun crusaders to question their family members about their firearms and ask if they are secured properly. They added a photo of a little children's toy just for effect. Remember, you're supposed to believe that your guns are putting innocent children in danger. The arrogance of the political left never ceases to amaze. The sense of entitlement is at a level we've never seen before, and the willingness to invade the privacy of others always seems to be at the top of the priority list for those nosy, neurotic anti-gunners. I'm going to leave there's a lot more to the story. I'm going to kind of leave it there. I'm going to say this. If you're coming to my house over the holidays and you want to ask where do I have firearms? Are they locked up? What's this? What's that? I'm going to show you the front door, and I'm going to strongly suggest that you leave before you ever even get your coat on, because you're going out with my boot hitting the backside in about 3, 2, 1.
Boom.
Yeah. Rob, you're in show notes, man. What do you think?
No, I agree with you, Paul. This is why we don't invite our liberal relatives over for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's a good call. I've thought about doing this, and this was completely inspired by all of the stores in the summer of 2020. When you walked into a store, if you weren't wearing a mask, they would give one to you. So what I've thought about doing is telling people that I live in a gun-full zone, and when you come into my house, if you don't have a gun on you, I will give one to you for you to wear while you're here. And then you can obviously leave it when you leave. But if you're coming over to my house, maybe you should put a gun on.
Now, I really hope that you include a holster with that firearm.
Oh, well, of course. Of course. I wouldn't, maybe it's a sling. I don't know. But
there you go.
Right? You have to watch out for that sling there. Yeah, I hate saying I've eliminated all the anti-gun folks in my life, but I've kind of eliminated all the anti-gun folks in my life, and they certainly know how I feel. And if they don't want to have me over, that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, I have not eliminated all of the. I have blood relations that are virulently anti-gun, and I am not going to disown and drop. I'm not going to give up on them because they haven't seen the light yet. But I also suffer no fools that way. If you're going to go to that extent, I will show you the door, and that's. Come on, you're in my home. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of, there's no reason for you to gun shame me because you don't have a gun, and I'm going to look at you and wonder why you don't have one.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
got nothing to do with the company that you keep. If you're going to someone's house, there's a possibility you could be carjacked. I mean,
Yeah. Let's do this, guys. Anything else here, or do we want to just go ahead and jump to break and then get to DGUs? I'm not hearing a whole lot of comments.
Jump.
All right.
Would you like to be pushed?
Well, how about this? We're gonna hear from JPFO. When we come back, we're gonna fold the DGUs and the final segment into one segment, and we'll get out of here before the top of the hour. So we're going to step aside to break here from JPFO. We will be right back right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police! Search warrant! No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
All right, welcome back. This is a defensive gun use segment of the Polite Society podcast. Real quick, I want to make a quick diversion before I get into the disclaimer and getting into the DGUs. I work overnights. And since I changed employment, my main job, I start at 10 o'clock at night and I work until 8 o'clock in the morning. And last night I was trying to get back into being up overnight. After Susan went to bed, I was just poking around on TV, and I found this thing called Violent Night as a movie that I could watch for free. And I'm into a lot of different corny stuff when it comes to and I like some movies that you may think are just silly. This one looked like it might be okay. I have never seen a worse movie in my entire life, and that includes the Star Trek prequels. An action movie that was anti-gun. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Rob, you are down in show notes for the first DGU. What do we got?
I am. It's 5 minutes after midnight. A Port Orange, Florida homeowner's woken up by their barking dogs. Then they hear their doorbell ringing. Strange time for door-to-door salesmen. From inside their home, the homeowner verbally shouts at the guy at the front door. What the hell do you want? The stranger outside turns and walks away. Good. As good as it gets. Then the stranger walks around to the side of the home, checks windows, side doors, and starts pulling a screen off the bedroom window and prying the window open. The homeowner, bonus points again, says, "Get out of here. I'm armed. Stop that." No response. The stranger then climbs through the window and the homeowner says, "Not that's where we stop it. Homeowner shoots the intruder. Intruder dies at the scene. Court records show that the intruder, had been arrested the day before and locked up and locked in jail on charges of, wait for it, burglary of an occupied dwelling and loitering or prowling. He was booked into the jail at 4 minutes after midnight and got out 9 hours later after posting a $5,500 bail. Police were called to a different home in the area where the dead man rang the doorbell, but left after there was no answer. While investigating, the police were called to yet another neighborhood home, where he also tried to break in by tinkering with an electric door keypad. Police talked to the wandering soul and asked him, what is he doing in the middle of the night, and asked if he was under the influence of drugs. Said he was sober. He said he'd gone for a walk in the woods and got lost. He didn't have a arrest record prior to the previous day. Now, here's where the story it gets interesting. According to his girlfriend and his mom, he'd recently noticed that he'd been acting very strange. He complained about hearing voices. His mother was coming down from Boston. They were trying to find a psychiatrist. Neither mom nor the girlfriend called the cops and said, I think my boyfriend/son is acting really strange and needs to be hospitalized. He's dead now.
That's unfortunate. And just because my mind is in left field, boyfriend/son, that just sounds wrong on a whole lot of levels.
I thought I said, oh, okay. He's her boyfriend and her son. You need to read more, Paul.
It didn't say they were from Kentucky. Come on.
All right.
Ooh. I thought that was, and by the way, I thought that was West Virginia, but all right. Shows I'm learning about America all the time. Charlie, take us to Brooklyn.
Well, let's do we have time to talk about this one?
Yes.
I think it shows that people that commit crimes keep committing crimes, right? How many people go for a walk in the woods at 12 o'clock midnight? Lost is not what he's going to get. Injured by tripping over things is what he's going to get.
Yeah.
Right? You can't walk in the woods in midnight with not being able to see anything. I mean, maybe there's some moonlight, but overall, that's just a bad deal.
And this is an unusual. I think I'm going to go with Rob's normal line of I want to see the toxicology report, because in one day he starts a crime spree, gets arrested, meaning he's not very good at it, posts a $5,500 bond, which means he's got a little bit of cash lying around, and then continues his crime spree hours after he's released. This is not your normal criminal, but yeah, good on the homeowner for stopping. The guy was obviously, when nobody answered the doorbell at a previous residence, he was looking for occupied residents, and that can only mean that he's looking to terrorize people.
Well, as crazy as that sounds, maybe it's more innocent. Maybe he's psychotic or a manic depressive. Whatever it is, the guy needs help and wasn't getting it, and we couldn't get it to him fast enough. Charlie, correct me.
No, under the influence of alcohol or drugs, how many times have people asked you if you're drunk and the answer was yes?
Yeah. If
couple,
that person
right?
if that person has a uniform on, I can honestly say never.
Okay. All right. Well, the police talk to him, right? So you're not. I mean, if
Gotcha.
I've never been arrested.
Okay.
I've never been arrested for being intoxicated. But you know, if the police ask you if you've been drinking, the answer is no, officer. Even though your breath smells like Lynchburg, the answer is still no.
Coffee. This is coffee. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a sad situation, but the guy spent his last 24 hours on a crime spree.
Yeah, not all of these are wonderful outcomes. This one, the outcome is, I'm going to say, as good as it could, almost as good as it could have been. The perfect DGU, no shots are fired, and bad guy gets arrested. This was not a perfect DGU, but I do not in any way put blame on the homeowner. The homeowner did what they had to do.
Oh, for sure.
Charlie, we've got a unicorn here, a defensive gun use in Brooklyn, New York, in one of the 5 boroughs.
Unbelievable. LaShawn Craig, an MTA employee and military veteran, found his tenant in his Bedford apartment. Stuyvesant, thank you. Wearing a mask and gloves and toting a taser at approximately 9:40 p.m. He told the man to get out, and the man reached into his pockets. That's when Craig, a 45-year-old train operator, fired his gun. Then he called 911 and surrendered the illegal gun to police. The pair had been arguing over family photos when the spat took a turn for the nasty. It was not clear if the two were related. The wounds were to the man's torso and proved to be mortal. Craig had no prior history of criminal activity and was arrested and arraigned on 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon, 1 a felony, and 1 a misdemeanor. The shooting is being investigated as a justified homicide due to self-defense. The deceased man had a long history of narcotics and domestic violence and was previously shot in his apartment on the 2nd floor of the same building. That incident did not involve Craig. It resulted in the death of a 19-year-old woman who had come with a man looking to buy cocaine.
Wow. Rob, I've been reading what you've been writing. I'm absolutely with you on this. Go.
Yeah, the defender's crime was that he didn't ask the state for permission to own a gun, and he didn't pay enough taxes to own a gun. Sorry, you're one of the little people. You're supposed to bend and scrape before you're allowed to defend yourself. How dare you?
Yeah. And this one, the Dana, I hope you're tuned in right now, because where am I at? The pair had been arguing over family photos when the spat took a nasty turn, but Craig was the landlord, is the way it was written earlier. Were these two related? I mean,
you said this wasn't Kentucky, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is Brooklyn, New York.
They could be out of towners.
All right. I don't know. Yeah, if going back to what I remember of Mossad Ayub group training, if somebody is reaching into their pocket and going to an aggressive stance, that could be called a furtive movement. And if you are armed and somebody makes a movement like that, like they've got a gun or a taser or a knife and they're reaching for it, and it's obvious they're reaching for it, that's called a furtive movement. And it can be something you articulate in your defense of, honestly, Your Honor, I had to at that point, because a reasonable person would believe that he's about to employ deadly force.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I'm with Rob on this as well. The only crime here by the defender was that he didn't register the gun, and he didn't pay the registration fee, and he didn't jump through all the hoops that the city and state wanted him to. Let me see here. I do have a comment from Dana here. Let me get this up. And by the way, not so insider information, Dana is the guy that writes up our defensive gun uses. The story said they didn't know if there was any relation between the two. It might have been the dead man's family photos. Okay.
Maybe.
All right, let's move on to this so we can get out of here by the top of the hour. Rob, This is where we start mentioning what we have been and what we are going to be doing in media for the week. What do you got you want to plug that you have put up or that you're gonna?
Right. I did some writing. At Slowfax, I wrote, where did new gun owners come from and where are they going? Our society's changing. The changes cost a lot of us to buy a firearm. Almost 14 million of us bought a gun for the first time in 2020 and 2021. The increase in gun ownership isn't going to lead to a significant change in political affiliation. Let me say that another way. Yes, we had 30 million new gun owners since the last election. Don't count on 30 million new Republicans. Democrat gun owners largely ignore the gun issue when they vote. Paul, yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah,
That's
we
what I commented on.
We had a story yesterday when Rob joined me for the weekend edition, and that story is according to an NBC News poll, 52% of us, the majority of Americans, own guns, including, if my memory is correct, 41% of Democrats own
Paul,
guns.
I think that number was that we live in a home where a firearm is present.
Okay. And that and 41% of Democrats answered that way.
Live in a home, right.
So, yeah, Rob, I think you might agree with me that all polls related to firearms in the past, my thought is they've all underreported, and I think this one as well underreports.
Well, maybe,
I think it's honestly probably in the neighborhood of 60% of the homes in America have a firearm present. And whether the person has been trained to use that firearm, whether they're going to be effective if they have to, is another story. So, Charlie, let's you got one dropping tomorrow, right?
I do. Episode 185 of Riding Shotgun is dropping tomorrow. Will Workman from Workman Protection Training in Bluefield, West Virginia, is the person that I interviewed. I went and caught him in West Virginia. I needed to get a show in West Virginia. So it was great that he reached out to me, and I was able to, one of my travelings, I was able to film a show with him. So that's coming out tomorrow. And also, just before Thanksgiving, the Armed Lifestyle magazine came out. The most recent Writing Shotgun with Charlie, Sarah Albrecht, is the person that I talked with. So everybody should check that out. Sarah's from Hold My Guns, of course. And it's a free resource. It's armedlifestylemagazine.com. Put out put out issues every 2 months. And please check it out.
Very cool. West Virginia. Now, is he related to his cousin or involved with his cousin or mother or,
They had an argument. Right?
Yeah.
They had an argument over a family photo, right?
Yeah. And Sarah Albrecht, she recently has been a guest here on the Polite Society podcast. I heartily endorse what she does. She's doing a fantastic job. I only hope that Hold My Guns gets out further and further and further into the community. Right now, they're, in 8-9 states? I would love to see them in all 50 and in multiple areas of all 50 because, to be honest with you, if that comes to South Dakota, but the Hold My Guns place is in Rapid City, that's a 5-hour drive for me. So... all right, which is farther to Rapid City than to Minneapolis, although I'd much rather go to Rapid City than Minneapolis. All right, that's going to say, everybody do, if you are a Facebook, if you're watching us or listening and you're on Facebook, go check out our Facebook listeners group. Just search for Polite Society Podcast Listeners. You do have to request to join, but there are only listeners there. There's not, you're not going to find any trolls in there. We do regulate that group. And you'll also be able to watch Polite Society and Polite Society News there. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. So for Amy, Dana, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, Carrie Ann, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, that is the end of the recorded portion of the show. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down now because I've got to get ready to go to work tonight, and I want to try to get this thing turned into podcast before I go, and that's a little bit of a process. So everybody, thanks for watching. Come join me again Wednesday night when it is Mike Piwowarski from Arms Room Radio is going to be joining me for Polite Society News. And then this Friday is Legal Friday with Mike Uli. Alex's dad is going to, and also an attorney, is going to be joining me for Legal Friday this week. And Sunday, I believe Brooke Cheney is going to be on the weekend show, but I haven't got anybody else booked yet. That's it for us, everybody. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.